What's up, everybody? It's your favorite apprentice's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Black Series Archive line Darth Maul. We're gonna take a look at the figure, we're gonna take a look at the accessories, we're gonna compare it with the original release as well as the Figuarts, and we'll get out of here, alright? So let's go ahead and get started. So he comes with his binoculars. We have tons of paint on this thing. It's weathered, like the gray or the silver is weathered, and the black is painted. And then we have even a red accent paint there. So really quite well done. And we have a little gold paint too. Like they spared no expense in regard to kind of decoing this thing, which is nice to see. And he'll hold that just fine. And he comes with his lightsaber. I'm gonna say it every time. You already know I'm gonna say it. I will say, like, I'm having a harder and harder time with these Black Series getting the blade to come out. I'm not sure what's going on there. But they do come out, and I wish that they had a white rod through the center and the red translucent around them. The hilt itself is cast in this grayish silver plastic, and then you have the red and black accents on it, and then there's a cut joint that goes very specifically to kind of combine them. And there it is. And he'll hold that just fine. And lastly, he comes with this alternate head, and we'll talk about why he comes with it here in a second, but I just wanted to take a minute and say that it is much better done than the original, and if you needed evidence, there it is. And I think it becomes pretty obvious pretty quick that the human error that's involved in the hand paint versus the digital kind of application always is going to come across. Now, I'm a union type of guy, so I don't like to see people lose their jobs. However, I can't deny how much better this new head sculpt paint application is. So the alternate head allows you to kind of get rid of this outer cloak, which is attached and glued to the top of his head. So the outer cloak and the head, which is new, all sits together as one. And if you pop that off, then you can kind of work his arms out of here and then add on, oh, the old spikes digging into my fingers, add on the new head. And you're in service. However, in the same way that the paint application looks far better digitally on the old mold, also have to look at just how far they've come and how much better the face sculpt is on the new one along with the paint. You know, it's just, this is a line from them that has just increased leaps and bounds, and you have to applaud them for it. You gotta take a minute, and we'll go ahead and put all three together just to kind of get a point of reference to see if he'll sit up there. Nope, not gonna happen, so. But yeah, much, much, much better. So before we go through the full articulation and stuff of the figure, we're going to talk about how the outer cloak affects articulation when you have it on. So you can get the shoulder up a bit, but it starts warping the kind of robes almost immediately. So to be honest with you, you're pretty much just left with your elbow bend and your wrist articulation and then your ankle articulation. Because even when you go to bend the knee, I mean, that's not terrible. But for the most part, it doesn't really work well outside of its kind of initial intention. So it's a bummer in that regard, but it is done beautifully. Like the way it sits on the horns and stuff, like they only could have done that by kind of doing it the way they did it, you know? And it's quite smart, and it works extremely well. It's like the sleeves and stuff specifically, it's almost seamless. Like you can barely tell where the disconnect is. So I applaud them for it. I think they did a good job. And now let's talk about the figure. So it's the same articulation, right? But it's a ball peg on a disc hinge, and it sits very far up inside, so you rarely even see the joint, which was always well done. You get up to there, down to there, the swivel, slight attitude, but it's all pretty seamless, which is nice. We've already talked about kind of the head sculpt and paint and such, but pretty well done. So then you have your robes, right? You have your outer robe and your inner robe, they're all sculpted in. Then you have the belt, which is done in like a more glossy. You also have the gloves and the boots that are done in more of a glossy. So we have a single ball peg with great articulation here. You're gonna get down to there, back to there, little teapot, and your swivel. And on a single ball peg, that's a pretty impressive range. Now your shoulders are your standard kind of Marvel Legend style disc hinge. So you get out to 90 degrees and then around. It's the tunic here that kind of stops the arm from going any further. No double jointed elbow and no bicep swivel, but you do get the bicep swivel at the elbow joint on a single hinge that gets you a little shy of 90 degrees. Wrist swivel and hinge in, out on his left hand and up, down on his right hand. Otherwise, it's stylistically or engineering wise the same. So for the lower legs, we have the soft goods underneath the soft plastic. I've always liked that. I've always thought it added an interesting and kind of visually interesting element of depth to the character, I mean to the figure, so that's cool. Looks like the scissors meter got a little bit out of hand on this strand here because it maybe popped out a little bit too far. I'm not sure if that's a widespread issue. There is a widespread issue with this wave that we will talk about when we get there, but it's not on this figure that I know of. T-jointed ball joints for hips, fairly limited for a pretty dynamic character, and then front and back is no issue. Thigh swivel, double jointed knee, super baggy pants. So it's not going to look super pretty, but it's not the worst we've ever seen either, right? And it kind of works. Then we have the ankle tilt up, the ankle tilt down, and the rocker where the disc hinge pegs into the foot. So all of that works. The wrinkles and stuff and all of the suit, like, it all looks good, especially on the back. Like it has weight to it. You know, it looks like it has weight to it. So that's quite nice. So there he is with the Hasbro original release. The Hasbro is on your right, he's on your left, and as you can see, it's identical. Now my Hasbro, my older one, is having a bit of a balancing issue, which is why he's kind of hunched forward, but it's exactly the same. I mean, everything is exactly the same. The only difference here is in the new head and such that you get, which is great, and the paint application on the original head. It would have been nice to have gotten a totally new head for this look as well, but them the rules, I suppose. And there they are with the SH Figuarts, and the SH Figuarts still has them both. Hasbro's getting better, there's no doubt about it. In some figures I feel like that Hasbro does are better sculpt and paint wise, not really engineering ever, but sculpt and paint wise, or at least in the conversation. And while I feel like the new Maul head and such is in the conversation, this old one is still just can't beat that head sculpt on the Figuarts. Like, it's perfect, and it has those like piercing eyes, which I think is such an important character element of Maul. But nonetheless, hopefully that'll give you an idea of the three. Now I'm actually going to end up using him for my main villain prequel shelf because a lot of these characters are in such stoic poses, and he kind of lends himself to that. Now this is where I had my SHF, but I'm going to end up doing a diorama over here for him fighting Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. I'm probably going to do it in the desert because my plan is to do 3 desert ones across the bottom for the 3 trilogies. It is kind of a bummer that they didn't redo the head. You know, they kind of did the hard work of the face on the alternate head, so I don't think it would have been that difficult to kind of rework that into a natural head, without the cloak, that is. Because the biggest shortcoming of this figure is just old sculpt detail. Everything else works extremely well. Now, to be fair, this was a really good mold for its time, so it's held up pretty well, which is nice. Certainly makes their life a lot easier, I'd imagine. But I mean, the new Maul head on the cloak is just so much better, because they've come such a far way, you know, it's more of a testament to what they've done. Also, and I know this is minor, but for melee weapons, I really prefer to have the up and down hinges on the hands more so than the in and out. I just feel like there's more versatility to the posing of them in regard to melee weapons than the in and out. Also, I feel like they should be including more hand options. Now, he has accessories, at least 2 that he can hold, so that's a nice bonus. However, doesn't change the fact that more often than not, you're probably only going to be having him hold 1, and it's always awkward and weird to have a character just sort of keeping a C positioned hand holding imaginary items. Always bothers me. An insane amount of positives though. The new head sculpt is beautiful, and the way that they incorporated the outer cloak into it is absolutely stunning and amazing. And if you have the previous release or the Figuarts, it gives you an added option of how to display this character, which was very thoughtful. Otherwise, everything kind of works as you'd expect. Sculpt work is still pretty great, limited paint, but most of it is on the face, and that's done extremely well, and all of the kind of engineering that's already in the figure already worked nicely. So it was a no-brainer. I applaud him for doing it because this figure was fetching a pretty penny on the aftermarket, and I would imagine that you would see this bring those prices down, as well as even give you a better option if you don't have the figure yet to pick one up. So it is a recommend from me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.